Good. Okay,
Progress. We have to make progress here.
always.
So we're in the middle of a Mishnah, Mishnah 17 in my edition, chapter 2, Rabbi Yossi.
Mhm.
And it's the middle statement that I'd like us to spend some time considering. The translation, we've had a couple of translations. So, Geraldine, you have that specific statement?
Yes, Rabbi.
Please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect yourself in the study of Torah. It will not come to you by inheritance.
Right. Okay. And other people, any minor, Sarita, yeah?
It says, qualify thyself for the study of the Torah, since the knowledge of it is not an inheritance of thine.
Okay. And Merle, what do you have?
Mine uses the word apply yourself to Torah study.
Okay. And what do we have in the Shapiro version?
Very different. Seek out wisdom for yourself and don't rely on inherited truth.
Okay, very different. So we've got actually, if we really pay close attention to the different phraseologies that we have a few different statements, all purporting to be a translation of what Rabbi Yossi said. So anybody want to take what you've got in front of you or what you've heard and expand on it? Yeah.
What was the verb that Geraldine? Geraldine, what was your verb?
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
perfect. Okay.
Perfect yourself.
Perfect, qualify, apply, and then a very different one.
Well,
Okay.
but they're prepositions there also that are changed.
Yeah.
So perfect yourself through the study of Torah, right? Is that something like that is what?
Oh, qualify for is what we
Yeah, so
have.
that's,
Okay.
so those are different, right?
Apply to, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Josie, you said you wanted to say something?
Yes,
Great.
Rabbi Shapiro is really way out there. Says truth is dynamic, arising from reality in the moment. Hence, truth cannot be inherited from the past. I like this line. There is no need to forget the past. Just don't expect it to be true in the present. That's very radical. If we listen to him, why are we studying?
Yeah, I think that would be a good question. I think actually somewhere along the line after he published that book, he decided that he wasn't a rabbi, actually.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah, but I don't want to speak for him. But I think that that's definitely something that comes straight out of, what he said, that question that you're asking. I think, what does that mean about tradition? What is the status of a tradition that we pass on? If the truth is always changing, what does that mean? So that's a good question. And if anybody wants to try to speak, to that question, that's fine too. But I think that, let's wait maybe and see if we can come back to that kind of radical discussion, because let's take the more conventional stuff and see what we make of it. Yeah, Sarita.
So our note here says that it could also be translated as prepare yourself. So, but the main thing seems to be that, you don't get it by osmosis, that this is an effort that each person has to put in for themselves to study the Torah, and that there's also some preparation or qualification to do that. You can't just open it up and assume that you know it all and will know exactly what it means.
Okay, so whether there's truth value to the Torah from the past or not, which Rabbi Shapiro's statement puts into question, but whether or not there's truth value, both ways of looking at it agree that you can't just take it as a given. And it's not an inheritance. You don't have it automatically just because you woke up in this morning and you happen to be the heir to a glorious tradition or to whatever. Something has to be done by you. Anybody else? Yeah, Bill.
Well, it's not news here, but I'm struck by the fact that Rabbi Shapiro sort of finesses the question of Torah, or else he takes Torah in the biblical sense of general wisdom or teaching. All the other translations specifically referred to Torah, and he talks about wisdom. I don't know exactly what he has in mind there, whether he's trying to universalize the
I think that actually we've seen that again and again in his translation. I think that if you go back and look at previous,
Yeah.
previous statements
Mishnah,
in his text, I think that's what he does. That's what
Yeah.
he's doing. Absolutely.
I'm just struck by it here, particularly since
Yeah.
everybody else was adhering quite strictly to our traditional understanding of Torah.
Go
And he
back,
is-
go back to some of the other places where the word Torah.
No,
is
you're right. You're
mentioned.
right.
I think that
I
I think
remember
you'll
that.
find that.
For some reason, this just struck me today. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. I want to make reference to another Mishnah that is in chapter 4. And obviously, again, we're going to have some differences in the number of the Mishnah, but it really doesn't matter. In my edition, it's Mishnah 21 in chapter 4. Rabbi Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Jacob says, Ha'olam hazeh domeh leprosdor. This world is like a vestibule, like a hallway, bifnei ha'olam haba, that goes toward the coming world. Hatkein atzmecha bifrosdor kedei shetikanes l'traklin. Get ready in the vestibule so that you can enter the main hall. Right? So in other words, the main hall is the coming world, and this world is subsidiary and is actually just a hallway that leads to the next world. So hatkein atzmecha, that's that same phrase. And there it clearly means prepare yourself. Get yourself ready in the in the hallway then before you go into the main room. People, when you're behind stage, we've seen these in shows and in movies, or you're waiting to go into a meeting, and you get yourself ready ahead of time. If it's a question of getting your tie straight for people that wear ties, or you're looking at your hair, or you have to say something, you review it in your mind, what it is that your line is, or something like that. You have to take a deep breath, whatever it is that you need to do in order to get yourself in your best presentational mode so that you can then walk into the next space and be there. You need to do that in the anteroom, right? Literally the anteroom, the room before, right? So I want to say that I think that that's really the main point that is back here in our Mishnah, which then requires us to think about what that might mean. Prepare yourself for the study of Torah. And that's a different thing than saying, well, study Torah so that you can become a better person, or acquire wisdom for yourself. Don't bank on received wisdom, all that other kind of stuff. It's not about the wisdom per se or the Torah per se. It's the anteroom. It's the preparation toward, which is literally hatkein atzmecha lilmod Torah, something or other yourself to study Torah. Yeah, Sarita.
So it strikes me that this is where the Shapiro translation really sort of knocks against the other one, because the preparation seems to me to put yourself in a certain frame of mind. And wouldn't part of that frame of mind be accepting that this is really valuable, that there is some truth, not that there can't be different interpretations, but that there is some truth to the Torah. And if Shapiro is kind of suggesting otherwise, that the malleability of truth, then it seems like he's really suggesting something very, very different here. Then what is the mindset for studying this if you don't believe in it in the first place? Yeah.
So I think that you're going a little too fast. You're assuming what the preparation is. You're assuming the preparation is a certain kind of mindset. I would like to open that up as, that's one possibility, but I think that there are possible alternatives. What is it? That's exactly the question that I want to raise for everybody. What would it mean? And then I think that Shapiro, if he wanted to actually go there, which he apparently doesn't quite, but he might answer you, that's exactly the mindset I'm talking about. Prepare yourself for understanding that truth is fluid and that and dynamic and changing. And don't make the assumptions that, you know, it's a given and you know, I just have to look it up and that's all. I think that he could respond to the question. I think we shouldn't get at this point. I'm trying to delay that. You know, again, like I say, the truth value proposition is something we could look at later. I think that he would also be able to discuss this. What does it mean? What kinds of things can we understand, can we conceive of, can we imagine would be ways to prepare ourselves to study Torah?
Ah,
So Sarita is offering one very, very important and you know, compelling idea. You have to create a mindset for yourself. You have to and even, you know, what Sarita was saying, do you mean a mindset like a philosophical attitude toward Torah, or do you mean it's Sunday morning, it's you know, it's 9:59.
that's
In another
right.
minute, I'm studying Pirkei Avot, right? So how do I get ready? Well, I need that coffee, you know. So no, maybe that's actually you know that about yourself. So you know, you know what? That's otherwise it's not going to work. That's what you were saying before, right? So yeah. So that's what I want to do. I want to see what else can we you know, come up with, or what kind of things, you know, whether it's, you know, really what works for us or what we would like to work for us.
Yeah.
Bill.
I'm struck, Rabbi, by something that appeared in one of the Mishnayot long ago, that the ignorant man cannot be pious. Now, we're not talking about piety here. I understand that, but I'm struck by the ignorance that you can't fulfill your obligations as a Jew if you're ignorant, if you don't know anything. I realize this is getting on very, very shaky ground, because so many of the study of the sessions that I'm participating in include people who by their own admission know nothing. But I'm perhaps because I was a trained intellectual, and I just think in those kind
The worst. It's the worst.
You don't joke. There is such a thing as being overeducated, and I think I'm the living proof of that. But nonetheless, what this seems to be saying is that you can't just open up the book and say, okay, I'm ready to go. You know, coffee or no coffee, or whatever, you know, whatever you need. You need to be rested. Your mind has to be clear of distractions, but you also have to have some degree of preparation. Otherwise, you're just talking in vague kind of generalities. I realize that's not a view that's shared by everybody, and I fully admit that may come out of my own, what do I want to say, overcommitment, I guess, to intellectualizing everything. But that's what this is saying to me.
So let's get down to the basis here. So
Yeah.
you need some preparation. What are you talking about when you say preparation? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about study, some preliminary study.
So study in order to study.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now. I have open in front of me, which I do every Sunday morning, Hanoch Albeck's edition of the Mishnah. I got 5 volumes of this, all in Hebrew, and I have it up to the page because I'm concerned about
Should be 6 volumes.
I'm sorry.
Should be 6 volumes.
Let me see. You're undoubtedly, you are absolutely right. I can't count. Numbers and I have had a very agonistic relationship.
6 orders of the Mishnah.
Duh. And I know that. I've studied that. I know that. But it's just not there. But anyway, knowing what the original language was is important to me. It's not necessarily important to everybody else, but knowing what word he's using for prepare, or what word he's using, which Shapiro translates as wisdom, that kind of preparation. Again, I over prepare this kind of stuff, and not everybody is going to be drawn to language the way I am, but it seems to me that some knowledge of the Hebrew word is useful for studying the Torah. It was not given in English. It was given in Hebrew, or in some cases in Aramaic. So that's just one example.
So wait. I want to suggest that you're right under your nose is a little bit of a different possibility from exactly what you're doing. When you say you do this every week, so what you do every week is you get that other volume,
Yeah.
You get that supplementary volume. So I'm not talking content at all. You're simply your preparation. Forget about intellectual. You make a practical preparation. You prepare for the study of this session by saying, you know what, I need certain resources. I need certain tools. I'm going to take this particular extra volume and I'm going to put it next to me so that I can have it at the ready. So I'm trying to de-intellectualize the stuff that you're talking about and simply say you're doing a very practical thing. You know, for one person it's a cup of coffee. For you it's a second volume. Right?
I actually have a third. I have a third thing, which is on my phone. I did not preset it this morning. I usually do, and that's a Hebrew dictionary, either a modern Hebrew dictionary for understanding Hanuk's Albeck's comments, or my mind is just gone. But a dictionary of the Talmud to get at the Mishnaic language. I don't often check it because I'm more interested in what you or what other people have to say. But every once in a while, I'm caught up in the meaning of the word. I'm trying to get at what's going on here by getting at the meaning of the word, and sometimes I find it useful. Yeah, but anyway, so I have a dictionary. I actually have a couple of dictionaries. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 here, and I have another edition, a Hebrew edition with Hebrew comments of the Mishnah. So that's my immediate practical preparation.
Okay, good. Other kinds of preparation. Yeah, Josie.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. And Lou, you're next. Lou, you're next. Go ahead,
I think that we've had indications of what you should do previously. Get yourself a partner to study with. Don't say I'll study when I have time. You may never have time. In addition to getting into the right mindset. I mean, there are all these hints along the way about what the process is like.
Okay. So a whole bunch of different kinds of elements to add to your life as you are getting ready to study this particular thing. Good. Josie.
well, on a very non-intellectual basis, you got to turn off all these distracting things we have in our lives, the phone, the television, the radio, whatever else, your tablet. You have to not only clear your mind, but clear your space so that you don't have distractions. And I think for me, that's very important also, to not leave everything to the last minute so that I don't come rushing in, grabbing my book and, wondering, is the cat going to bite me if I'm studying? Get rid of all that other stuff so your mind can focus.
Where'd you put the cat?
She's in the window right now. Shh.
All right, Merle and then Geraldine. No, you're on mute.
I have a slightly different way of looking at this. We don't all start out as Torah scholars or even approaching Torah study. Wherever you come in, whether it's a yeshiva when you're 5 or when you're 40 and whatever it is. So I think preparation is, whatever, if you've got the goal in mind that you want to study this and learn more about it, whatever step you take in that direction is a preparation. And I also think, and I think I mentioned it, 10 or more years ago, that every single thing that we do, every single course that we take, except maybe Zohar, but I'm not sure about that. It's Torah study. It doesn't matter whether it's called Talmud or Pirkei Avot or a mitzvah of the week or whatever it is. It's all Torah study, and that we put ourselves in the situation where we can do that. It's all Torah study. For me, my specific trigger is I have an alarm set on my phone for anything related to study at Shomrei. And the alarm is the Mizmor LeDavid chant. So whenever I hear that, which you know I love, I know that it's time to put stuff away and get to my desk. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
So first of all, I just want to reassure you that Zohar is also Torah study. You can put
I was being a little facetious, but
put that down out of your mind.
okay.
But what you were saying about the alarm, that's not just a practical thing. Some of what we're talking about here is put aside things, create that space, right? Empty out, what's going to get in the way. And then the question also is, what does it mean preparing in terms of what do you put in? So Lou's points of the whole Pirkei Avot is trying to get us prepared to have a certain kind of lifestyle and a kind of mindset. And what you were saying is, on the one hand, you've got very practical. You've got an alarm clock, so you don't mess up, missing the session. But the kind of alarm clock that you set up is very interesting, right? It's an alarm clock that pushes some kind of spiritual button in you, right? So that nigun, that melody, that song, that psalm is, in some subtle way, more or less, moving your spirit a little bit toward an opening up for stuff. In Zohar, that's what we do every time. We start Zohar by singing a nigun. So that is a preparation for then hoping to be able to be open to the experience. So we've got different kinds of important suggestions here. Geraldine.
And let me, I'm sorry, I was just going to add one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Sometimes I don't turn the alarm off because because I know what it means, but I like it. It goes through quite a bit of the psalm, maybe even the whole thing, but I don't always turn it off. So that's all.
All right, good. And again, so before I let Geraldine talk, nobody said this was required. You came up with it yourself. And it has nothing to do with being an intellectual or not being an intellectual. So you came up with something that works for you, right? And that means something for you. Yeah, Geraldine.
I guess I agree with both Lou and Meryl. The idea of inheritance means you're born with it. And as Lou said, we need, and Meryl did too, we need to study with other people because what we're born with isn't enough. We have to discuss it over and over again. And I've always felt that, people say, well, why do you read the whole Torah over and over and over again every year? Or even a prayer or a psalm? Because each time you read it, if we discuss it with someone else, we see something different in it and we learn something from it. So it's not just what we got individually as an inheritance ourselves. The other thing was, what line in chapter 4 did you refer to?
In my edition, hold on a second, I have to find it again. In my edition, it's Mishnah 21.
Okay.
But it could be different. In different editions, it's different numbers. It's Rabbi Yaakov.
Okay. But I also, I have friends who are observant in their religions, but and I have a friend who is a Lutheran minister. I've known since I was in the 7th grade. They don't study things together in a group like we do. It's a very different orientation. And like Meryl said, we learn from each other every time we come together and we talk. One of the psalm that we say before Rosh Hashanah, during the month of Elul, where it says my mother and my father,
Could leave me, but you
leave
won't.
me, but God was watched over me. I read that psalm many, 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 many times before my father died, but it wasn't until he died that line jumped out at me more than the others. So, it's not just an inheritance. You need to discuss it and hear about it and learn about it and what other people are feeling as well.
Right, good. So Nick and then Sarita.
Well, for me, one of the basic, a basic example is services on Shabbat. It creates an environment where you're immersed in the group and in the Torah and in the study. And so it creates a context for study that for me is very meaningful. And if I don't go to services, I lose that connection a little bit. And I'm feeling it now when I haven't been going as often as I used to.
But it was great that you came on time yesterday. That was great.
Well, I hope to keep that up now.
Right. All right, good. Yes, Sarita.
So I'm also, again, maybe this is going back even more simple, but the idea is that this is, everyone has their own sort of preparation, but whatever it is, that this is something that you yourself have to do actively. I mean, I'm thinking about, we Zoom with Eva every weekend. Eva's my daughter, in case those of you don't know, and she'll often start and she has a problem. Mom, Dad, what should I do about it? And we say to her, you could research this yourself. You could read up on it. You could go check a YouTube. That it doesn't have to be that your first inclination is to come to us and to ask us, what should I do? What does it mean? And that's what that strikes me here about prepare yourself. It's not just that inheritance is, this is something that each of us has to actively do it. Don't just assume, like as we do, like go to your parent, go to your rabbi and, oh, okay, rabbi, what should I do? But this is an activity, this is a mindset for you yourself to engage in.
So we're running out of time, or we ran out of time. But as the last few comments also mentioned about the last part of this statement, right? It's not an inheritance to you. So had to link up that last part with the first part. When people have an inheritance, legacies, we have people, that didn't work a day in their lives because their parents gave them, $100 million. And what happens is that you think that you're really hot stuff with that inheritance. So what Rabbi Yossi is saying is, no, imagine that you have no inheritance. Then what would you do? Then how would you see yourself? First of all, you'd have to be honest about yourself. You wouldn't have that whole cushion, that whole extra layer around you you'd have to then figure out, who am I? What am I about? What do I need? What are my problems? How do I deal with them? Right? What's important to me, and what would be a solution? And with the Torah as well, to dig into what each and every one of us uniquely needs and can be, and with a certain kind of humility, right? I think that's the other bottom line that I want to emphasize. Why did Moses get the Torah? Because he was the most humble person in the world. That's, pre-studying the Torah, right? Before you get to the study, what's the attitude that you bring? It back to the original suggestion. What's the mindset that you bring about yourself, since you're not, automatically stamped with this, prepackaged multimillionaire, a status. Okay, we're going to have to stop here. Josie, I know that you have something to say, but try to remember it for next time. And we'll
Okay.
continue hopefully next week. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody.
Yashikov, everybody. Stay safe.